All right, guys. So, Uncanny X-Men 187. As we picked up from Life Death last issue, Storm is basically walking away from Forge's house when Forge's house basically becomes uh, rampaged by a bunch of dire wraiths. So, again, these are kind of like rip-off scrolls, if you will. So they're basically attacking the Forge's mansion, penthouse, whatever you want to call it, and they they're pretty much ransacking the place, and then Storm kind of goes back in to help Forge out, and that's pretty much the rest of the issue. They're kind of like teaming up together, fighting against each other, and I would say this is definitely a great opportunity to kind of show Storm's like ability to fend for herself even without her powers. There's a point where she gets a gun in the beginning of the issue, and we kind of get a flashback to when Wolverine showed her how to use a gun. So that's kind of cool, like extra characterization for Storm, as if there isn't enough at this point in her time as a character. We also run into this character named Naze, I think that's how you pronounce it, who's kind of like a ally to Forge, and he's kind of helping him escape and fight the Wraiths. And it's interesting because the Wraiths kind of like take the form of Storm at one point, and then take the form of Naze at some point too. So they're kind of fighting off these guys. They're fighting throughout the whole issue in this penthouse, which also has like these floors that can turn translucent and stuff. So really cool setting for a battle, I guess. And I think I mentioned in like one of the previous recaps that like these people kind of remind me of the Brood, and I think this is the issue where they kind of mentioned that like these people are kind of like the Brood a little bit, and I'm like, oh wow, that's funny. So yeah, the end of the issue kind of ends with them fending off the Wraiths, and the X-Men show up at the end. When I say X-Men, I mean Colossus and Rogue. They kind of show up, to kind of clean up and take care of stuff. And that's kind of where our issue ends. But just as they're about to, consider the battle, over, they're suddenly attacked by a manifestation of shadow beings that have been summoned by the Wraiths. And that is kind of where our next issue bleeds into. So this whole storyline with the Wraiths, it's interesting. Honestly, I'm more interested in the characterization that's going on with our main characters versus this whole villain. I could really care less about them, but they don't detract from the story at all, so that's good, I guess. But that was Uncanny X-Men 187, guys. On to 188.